Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is Bill Cancel, the host of the Boniqua BC Shoe Show. I am proud to be with who I am calling the original OGs of Blue Sky, Michelle and Nanny Coat. What's up, ladies?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Bill. Hi, Nancy Goat.
Hi, guys. Glad to
Thanks for
see everyone.
joining. Thanks for joining. How's everybody doing on this hot day?
Weltering, but in the air, it's all fine.
It
Thank
is.
God for air conditioning.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day for air conditioning. So,
Yep.
not that there's a lot going on to talk about because things are relatively quiet this time of year.
Nada.
Nada,
Boring.
nada.
Nada.
So let's talk about Iran for a minute. In case everybody didn't miss the Iranians did launch an attack against U.S. air bases just now in Qatar and in Iraq. MSNBC is reporting right now that there are no casualties in um, in Qatar, which is good to know. This is going to be a multi-hour story to find out what's happening. But Michelle, let's start with you. What's going on with Iran? Is it, and Nancy, this same question will apply to you. Is this potentially the biggest squirrel of all time?
Oh, I'm so glad I remember what a squirrel is from the last show we were on. Well, a little harder to answer. You and I talked about how, in some ways, everything is a squirrel
Right,
because everything is a distraction from the thing before it.
right.
With Iran, I think it's it's deeper than that. There's political reasons to be doing what they're doing. And the alliance between the United States and Israel is obviously a primary factor in the fact that we did this.
Right.
And I just am going to say before Nancy Goat goes that to me, this is just another opportunity for the billionaires in some
Yeah.
way or another, whether it's oil or whether it's
Oh yeah.
disaster
Of course.
capitalism,
Yeah.
privatizing. So
Defense
to
companies.
me, what do I think? Somehow getting enriched.
Right.
That's my view.
Nancy.
I have no argument with any of that. I think that it's always a grift. Everything is a grift. Everything is a tactic. We don't get told the truth almost about anything. I'm a little disappointed in the majority of the Democrats who aren't catching us up on the reality of this. I can count on one hand the Democrats
Same.
who are reporting to us the real story, and thank goodness for them. I mean, Chris Murphy is like, hell no, this is what's going on, and we need more of that. But I think that we have to view everything through two lenses, and one is exactly what Michelle said. Everything is a grift. Everything is about enrichment of the ones who support all of this, and hence you see the wedge, the divisions in MAGA. It's just kind of crazy. The other lens is the mental illness lens.
Mm-hmm.
And, um, the orange cone head he doesn't make decisions. He has reactions. And he may be being told, here's how you're going to get rich, or he may be being told, here's how you're going to stay out of jail, or he may be told, here's how so and so is going to like you and approve of you. And that's as far as he goes. And I had somebody suggest something really, truly interesting to me the other day. And I'm going to forward this recording to him so he can see that I remembered him, my friend Tom, who said, wouldn't it have been great if the people around Mr. Trump had told him, you want that Nobel Peace Prize? Here's
Yeah,
what you need to do.
exactly.
You need to drop plane loads, huge crates of diapers and
Mm.
soap and school supplies
Mm-hmm.
and first aid kits and
Money.
teddy bears, money if you want, and drop that on Iran. And you would be so loved. You'd get that Nobel Peace Prize in 5 minutes. I'm not sure it's true, but But they don't, because that's a preposterous idea to help people and not take from them. Is a preposterous idea to those who are feeding him what they want him to think so that he does what they need him to do.
You know, that is a brilliant point, Nance. I tell you where my head is at. You both know me. Yeah, I think you both know me quite well. I don't scare too easy. I was a little scared yesterday morning, as evident on my morning show, but this counterattack by Iran now has me really scared for one simple reason. And I just skeeted about this. There is no one in this administration with intelligence. There's no one in this administration with competence. There's no one in this administration with strategic vision. Trump just got hurt real badly with these counterattacks, real badly, because he started this. He had to know this was coming. So did he really just completely do an about face with his MAGA people and now say, well, too bad I have to go to war now? Because that's what he really wants. He really wants that strong man pounding the chest. I can do this. I'm just a big shot kind of guy, right?
And emergency war powers.
And emergency war powers.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Or does he wuss out of it and say this is not just a big thing, they're just blowing steam off? Now, hopefully the generals, and this is to your point, Nancy, hopefully the generals who are somewhat strategic and so on and so forth will tell him, take a pill. Just take a pill.
Take a pill.
You know, because if the F-35s and the F-15s and whatever you call them take off tonight, we're at war. I am thoroughly convinced of that. And the reason why I say that is because he will not be able to pull back because his ego would be deflated. And the only way to justify the ego is a full-out war, which would destroy his credibility forever. It'll destroy his MAGA base forever. These are some interesting times. Michelle, do you see where I'm going, or do you think I'm on crack, or what?
No, I see where you're going. I see things differently, which is why I love talking to people, because we have to open ourselves to people's perspectives right now. One thing I want to say is that there's literally nobody that we can say they know everything. No one's reporting the truth, right? So we can stay grounded in reality together, because the media and the propaganda and the politicians, they are making it very hard to know what's real, what the truth is. And that was all very strategic. And this is why we are now in this very difficult place, because they used really powerful messaging to cultivate a base. But we all know they don't care about that base.
Yeah,
these are billionaires.
Yeah, they don't care.
Trump laughs at those people. He puts on the MAGA Jesus lay hands on me role, but he thinks it's ridiculous. They laugh at the MAGA base. So they're disposable. They don't need votes because they're not leaving office.
Right.
They don't need their base because they don't want to have elections. They will suspend elections with the military powers. This is very much another motivating factor for us to be at war. They want to implement their vision of Christian nationalism. The easiest way to do that is by suspending elections. Bibi did it. Now Orange wants to do it. This is right up his alley.
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of him losing credibility and respect, he only wants that from sociopaths. Those billionaire funders that pillage and plunder the globe, they don't care if they're known as warmongers. They think it's part of their identity. So those are just some differences in the way I view some of the things.
Thank you.
Can
Nancy,
I ask a question?
Follow-up? Go ahead. Yeah.
Michelle, can you explain why it is that sociopathic narcissists or narcissistic sociopaths do tend to conglomerate and together, and is there something about that pathology that gives them an easier path to becoming billionaires? Is that, and why is it that, is it that they're all trying to use each other? What's the,
Great question.
what is the
Great question.
global explanation for why these people with this much power are all these sociopaths?
I mean, it definitely is, I think, somewhat of a birds of a feather flock together. I mean, we are wanting to look for a sense of belonging. And if you're a sociopath and you have a lot of money, I mean, look at all of the predatory people conglomerate, congregating together, right? Like I think it's sort of like, well, Jeffrey Epstein, all of these sexual abusers, like all of them kind of normalizing this obviously rape, predatory behavior. So I think they do kind of find each other. And especially I mean, there's got to be some, benefit to not having empathy, to becoming greedy and wealthy and wage war and imprison people. So, I think somehow in our country, the internet was used very effectively to grow the right wing extremism. And it was done through the most powerful type of propaganda, which is to generate fear, hatred, and anger. And, if you look at some of the documentaries about QAnon, and if you look at some of the things that people have been watching, it appeals to the masses because they're looking for feelings. They're disconnected. They want to feel part of something. So I think one of the biggest problems is that we don't have a handle on the right wing propaganda machines, and nobody's even trying. They're just seeing it as free speech. This is not free speech. Free speech is not go out and kill people because they're of a different nationality. So the billionaires did that, and they are sociopathic. And if Taylor Swift isn't, great, she can set up services for the veterans. And if any other billionaires want to step forward who aren't sociopaths to prove it, they can take so much money and invest it in the American people right now, who just got everything stolen from them, us, right?
Two things I want to comment on that, Michelle. When you talked about empathy, why don't they have empathy? The one thing that stuck in my head is because empathy requires work. And they don't give a shit about that. It's far less work to be greedy. It's far less work to be unempathetic, whatever you want to call the word, stuff like that. That doesn't take a lot to do.
That's a great point.
My other question for you is, as a mental health therapist and stuff like that, I'm fascinated by this because, as you said so eloquently in your opening, they don't care about MAGA. It's clearly obvious they don't care about MAGA. But what is that pathological, thanks Nancy for the word, what is that thing that makes MAGA still care about them? Is it just
again,
an
is
abusive
this
relationship that you just stay in? Or...
Well, think about it though. They're hearing stuff from Fox News.
Right.
They're hearing stuff from Untruth Social. They're hearing stuff from what was formerly Twitter. Right. And they're hearing stuff from their pastor. Like these are people they think are trustworthy. So the billionaires just understood how to mind control the masses through these machines. So I don't really blame the people, because the actual people saying these things are legitimized in society. TV networks, social media, billionaires.
Right.
People think he's a good businessman. Like, I don't blame them for their brainwashing.
Right.
These masters did it. These masterful manipulators did it. And I'm just so angry that there's no opposition.
Right.
And I feel like if the Democrats were really not the paid opposition, they would be starting huge propaganda machines of their own to counter.
Right.
And it's not really propaganda, but it would be saying immigrants are welcome here and trans people are precious.
That's right.
And this is fascism and we will not tolerate it. Like they're just like, let's vote with MAGA. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. Okay, switching gears now. Nancy, this is for you to start us off with. Who's in charge, Nancy? At this point, who is in charge of the country?
Putinska.
Putinska.
I really, I don't know, and I don't think anyone knows. I think it's a loosely affiliated group of people who think they've got great ideas, and they use their figurehead to promote and disseminate and operate those ideas, because he doesn't have any ideas of his own. He has opinions, but he doesn't have any ideas. He doesn't have any policies. He doesn't have any principles. They just see steps on the road to getting the society or the money or the power or whatever it is they're looking for that they want. And they figure out a way to goad him into doing it, to trick him, to tell him things. I can't say that there's one person in charge, but if I look at who's being paid by whom, you can tell who are the people who are on the Russian payroll, who are the people on the Israeli payroll. And that's the only division I see. But I am not sure that it's a real division. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
As far as I know, they are, I think of you remember the game Sorry?
Yeah, of course.
The little
Yeah.
game
Sorry.
pieces.
Yeah.
The little game pieces were
Yeah.
red, blue, green, and yellow. I
Yeah.
feel like, there's a red and there's a blue. And instead of competing against each other, they're colluding.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that. That's
Yeah.
just my instinct. But part of the pathology that Michelle was talking about reminds me of that accusation that we hurl about the orange man so often, which is that he's transactional. And I think that that's the only thing that holds value to any of them is a transaction. And I want that, like, this is a tiny little example. I want that great big yacht because it's a little bigger than the one I've got. And if you will make these conditions happen so that I can have that bigger yacht, I will make these conditions over here happen so you can have those 12 versions. I just, and I don't think they have any. What if it were really 12 virgins?
Right, exactly.
They don't have any compunction about that. They don't have any thoughts about that. It's just what's needed to get my yacht.
Yeah.
And I feel like that on a grand scale, that's what's happening here. So I'm sorry not to answer your question very
No,
well.
that's okay. It's a tough question. Michelle,
with any specificity.
Who do you think is running it?
I think Nancy Goat, she nailed it. She nailed so much. There were so many things I agree with. I don't really disagree with anything at all that she said or even feel the need to expand upon it. One thing I want to say about what you said, Nancy Goat, is you said, I don't really know, but that's my instinct. And one of the things I really think is important right now, we live in a post-truth world. The truth is not known. We live in a post-constitutional world. So our instincts are more valuable than ever because they're not telling us, nor will they ever. They will never tell us. Right. So we have to use our gut. We have to use that chill in our spine. Like if we're in a situation, it might not be safe, follow your gut. Right? You don't really know.
It's a great point,
you get a
Michelle.
feeling about something. You get a feeling about somebody. This is a way we need to stay safe. We need to listen. They're telling us, man, listen to them. People are like, they're in denial. People are in denial. Yeah. They've told us what they're going to do and they're doing it. And people are shocked.
Yeah.
because they haven't been listening to them, their own ears, or seeing things with their own eyes. And that is what propaganda does. It makes reality invisible. If you generate conspiracy theories like QAnon, then when there's a real conspiracy, people can't identify it.
Right, right, right.
Right. So I think whatever your perceptions are, there's probably a lot to them. Money is involved. I just was thinking how his book, The Art of the Deal,
Yeah.
right? It's all transactional, it's all sociopathic. Money is their value, human lives is nothing. Religion has corrupted all of these, are all supposedly religious groups,
Right,
countries, but they're not. They're using religion to control people, right? And so all of these institutions, the ruling class, the patriarchal governments, the regimes, the genocidal countries like ours has been, they've always ruled the globe in a very small, privileged group. And that group is getting smaller and more extreme and smaller and more extreme and smaller and more extreme. And so the techno oligarchs, they're running a lot of shit. They're running fucking elections.
Mm-hmm.
They're funding the elections. They're funding the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
So the techno oligarchs, they're running some stuff. And then the dictators,
Yeah.
the global aggressors, Russia, Israel. And if you take those three groups, then that's who, like, we've got running stuff. And they also have a Christian nationalist agenda, because not because they're Christians, because they want to control.
That's right. It's all about control.
Right.
Great point,
Right.
Michelle. Great point. Okay, moving on. This is a strange question, but I'm absolutely dying to get your opinion on this. I myself am not even sure where I am on with this question. So I'm just going to throw it out there. Is it possible right now, as of today, we are at the beginning of the end of the Trump empire? Nancy.
Possible. His health is so bad.
Yeah.
And anybody who's had an aging parent, especially one with dementia of any sort, sees clearly what's happening there. So I think that at some point, and I can't pinpoint when, because those things have a life of their own, but I think at some point we will see.
I'm not talking so much, Nancy, from a physical perspective, because I think we are. I think we are. I'm talking from a political perspective.
Well, but I think that the cult won't end until it has lost its figurehead. And
Okay.
I think as the figurehead declines, some might peel off, because I refuse to believe that fully a third of our country is actually hardline. I know they're not. I know
No, they're not.
I know people who have voted for Trump who are not MAGA.
Right.
You know, so and the worse he looks and behaves while it's happening, the worse he'll appear on Fox and OAN, and the more the offshoots like Tucker and Steve Bannon will latch onto this, and it will become, I'm hoping it will become a movement of its own. Watch this plane crash happening in slow motion.
Right.
It's like I can't look away. So, but when you get to the end of that track, whatever that is, whether it's his physical death or his political one, I don't think anybody can predict what will happen then. But do I think the cult will survive without the cult leader? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, me too.
There are still people who believe the things that MAGA professes to believe.
Right.
You know, that women don't count, that their only usefulness on this earth is usefulness. That people who with brown skin or who don't go to Christian churches or who aren't straight are lesser people. And that's a whole psychological phenomenon in itself. But do I think there's somebody else who can pick that baton up and run with it the same way that DJT did? I'm not so sure because too many things have happened, but I don't know. I mean, who has a crystal ball? I don't.
Exactly. Michelle, are we at the beginning of the end politically?
My crystal ball says I haven't even thought about his political end because I haven't seen that yet. I think that he's just getting started. I think that
Interesting.
This guy is as strong as an ox for some fucking weird reason. Somebody told me, oh, it's because he doesn't smoke or drink. I was like, okay. I think that people thought in his first term, oh, he has dementia, he has this or that. I don't think he does. I think that he is, if you look at his behavior from a young age until now, not a lot has changed.
No, I agree.
He's been saying extreme things. He's been racist. He's been
misogynistic.
Also mumbling and jumbling and not that great of a talker. So I don't think that we're seeing the end yet. And we're definitely not seeing the end of the impact.
Oh, yeah.
So what I think is that if and when this guy kicks the bucket, well, when he does, and it will be a day to rejoice, I think that another puppet will rise and that the propaganda machines will just take over from there. That's my belief. And that they can see Trump, nobody liked this guy. He used the media. He was known in New York. He was a terrible businessman. People hated him from New York. What happened? He got on The Apprentice show. It was all a performance, right? Like so this is what makes people powerful is the propaganda machines, TV, celebrity. And yeah, I think that role could be filled with somebody. I don't know who, but so I'm less hopeful about it.
Okay. Thank you. The next topic I take zero credit for. This is all by Nancy Goat. She mentioned this the other day. That's you. Yes, you. You, young lady. You mentioned this. And we'll start with you, Michelle. Remember how we talked about squirrels last week?
Yeah.
Or 2 weeks ago, and how bad squirreling can be.
Yeah.
We have another topic.
Okay.
How do you tell people to stop knee jerking?
Oh gosh. I have been screaming about it. I don't know if we can because again, it's the media that makes it happen. So one of the things that drives me crazy is how, again, this shit was on the internet. It's written up. Project 2025. We all have a copy, but every new thing is a shock.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, why is it a shock? Because the media is making it a shock. So, for example, he says a lot of the same shit over and over and over, but then you see some political commentators and journalists still posting the same shit with some like, he said this, like, no shit. He says stuff like that every day. Right. So I don't know, like, unless the media is willing to evolve and become a little less about clicks and about getting people riled up and more socially responsible, like maybe having conversations like we're having with the people and bringing up ideas that are useful and helpful. So I blame the media. And so what I'm just doing as a private citizen is I'm just trying to point out how we already know all this shit. We don't have to react. We don't have to be shocked. What we have to do is take it very seriously and prepare.
Exactly. Nancy, let's talk about your subject and all that it's caused.
Let's talk about what?
Let's talk about your subject and all that it's caused.
What's my subject?
Knee jerking.
Oh, yeah, knee jerk. So I think that the media is absolutely to be blamed in part. And I have I don't watch any American media that isn't independent anymore. I watch the only American media I watch now is independent journalism.
Yeah.
And then I turn on either the CBC or the BBC and I listen to what they're saying and I stack them up together and see where they meet. I can't do it too much or I'll go insane.
Mm-hmm.
But the knee-jerking, I feel, is from just plain old exhaustion. We're so tired. We're so scared. We're scared
That's a
for
great
good
point.
reasons. We're scared for good reasons, but honestly, at least half the time, we're scared for dumb reasons.
Yep.
And we need to learn to tell the difference. We need to do better at self-regulation. And part of that is simply turning it all off and taking a walk. But part of it is just checking sources and being intelligent. And part of it is exactly what Michelle said. It's sitting down and talking with people. I love the idea of sitting in a powwow circle, and I'm sure that's not the right nomenclature, sitting in a circle with a talking stick.
Mm-hmm.
And while someone's talking, everybody else is holding hands. Because that is what we need. We have become this society of separate individuals. We have forgotten how to hold on to each other. And it may sound really naive, but I think if love could be reinstated, if it ever was, as an absolute intentional part of our culture, you can't rip people apart who love each other.
Right.
It isn't something you can scare them out of. It is, but we've grown up in this society that values the individual. And I just want to throw in one little stick in the wheel, and that is this Pope.
Yep.
He has got it. And I'm not Catholic, and I'm not a fan of the Catholic Church writ large, but I am a fan of this Pope because he knows. I can see it, I can hear it, I can taste it. He has got a plan. And I don't know how much influence he's going to have because the influence of the church is waning anyhow. But if he can just, summon a little pluck and just call out the crap that he sees, it would be so interesting to see the reaction, because always everything he says is back to hope and love. Everything he says.
Yep.
As it should be, for fuck's sake. It's the
Exactly.
goddamn Jesus way.
Yeah,
You know? I mean, makes sense.
God,
Again,
can
not
we
that hard.
have people follow the person that the religion is
What?
supposed to be about?
Exactly. Stop
Right.
being logical, Michelle. Stop being logical, okay? Cut it out. All right, last question, ladies. This should be a quickie.
Wait, I want to comment on what she said.
Go ahead, please.
It's not naive to talk about love, not at all, because it is the way that humans are built. We're built to attach. The billionaires divide. They do it by gender, race, class, sexual identity, blue versus red. We have a two-party system. It's very divisive. It's good versus evil, and that's impossible. These are black and white ways of thinking. So if they use hate, of course, love is a remedy. And what happened was Kamala tried to use it. She didn't have enough time. She wasn't the perfect candidate. The Dems still suck.
Whatever.
But she did try to use, partially you could tell, joy and love. If somebody had more fucking lead time, they might be able to build a movement with that. The biggest, most successful leaders of our time of civil rights have all used that. My concern is they're going to take another strong man, Gavin Newsom, white guy suit, who's like practically MAGA light right now, but leading against ICE. Like, they're so conflicted. We never get a pure heart in the Democratic Party. Joe Biden was seen as that, but then now we're reminded one who grilled Anita Hill and got Clarence Thomas in the Supreme Court. These
Mhm.
people are not, they're not like healthy, loving people in their actions. So I think a movement to overcome hatred and fascism absolutely involves messages of love and unity. And that does mean blue and red uniting against the billionaires.
Yep, absolutely. Great point, Michelle. Great point. Thank you for doing that. Last question, folks, real quick. Michelle, general strike, yes or no?
Yes.
How does it happen?
Well, there's a couple different answers. One is that if we don't have martial law imposed, we just keep building the solidarity movement through protests. We keep posting, we keep trying to let people know that a general strike could work. You know what I mean? We promote it. But the other more realistic way is that we become very, very oppressed, very, 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 very oppressed by our government. And people have no other choice but to rise up and lead through refusing to work.
Exactly. Exactly. Nancy.
I mean, I can't disagree with anything Michelle just said. I don't see any other way to do it. My fear is that we just won't have the organizational chops to do it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and
agree.
that there may not be enough people paying attention and who even really know what it is or
I agree.
what's happening. I hear much more about protests than I do about the general strike. And believe me, I'm paying attention. So
Yeah.
there needs to be a little more oomph behind it. And, you know, what would be great is if some I kind of think of the general strike as something akin to Antifa. It's not really an organization, it's a movement. But I know that there are some people who are the organizers, and maybe
Sure.
those people need to be on shows and being interviewed, and there needs to be more
Media,
attention.
but they don't want. See,
No.
the media is complicit.
I mean, I have thrown out all the media as far as, you know what I just found out today? Throwing up a little squirrel. Nicole Wallace, of all people, has her own podcast. And
Yeah.
you know who she had on it? Midas Brothers.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, apparently these things are happening.
Yeah.
She's still allowed to be on her show. Rachel gets up there every night, and I've even stopped watching her, but I see clips. She gets up there every night and she says, "This is the truth, people."
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we need to be, I hate it because they're on MSNBC, but
see, I really agree with you, Nancy Goat. I think journalists could organize things like this, and that they never have seen their role in that way, but we're living in fascism and they need to evolve.
It's a new day. Yeah.
It's a new day. So I have been kind of wanting people with the big platform to step up, people that are rich, but they're not. So of course we still are, and I will still organize. But of course, if somebody with some visibility and wealth could get behind some of these things, I think the Democrats should be leading this way. I think they should be the opposition.
Thank you. Yes, exactly.
They could organize it.
Bill, ladies, you should invite some of that handful of senators that I know to see if they'll come on the show.
We're working on it. We're working on it. The marketing team supposedly has senators and governors lined up. So we're waiting to hear. To the original gangsters of Blue Skies, thank you so much for the show today. You guys are phenomenal. I would like to ask that you agree to come back to do another panel discussion in a couple of weeks, when convenient, obviously, to do one specific subject matter.
I accept.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about one subject, the Democrats.
Do we get to know what it is ahead of time?
Yes, the Democrats.
The Democrats.
I'm so in. I'm so in.
I knew you would be. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you watched today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. These two people are amazing followers to follow on Blue Sky. Everybody take care and have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Phil.